Hey, what's good? What's hood? It's your man Jay.
It's your man Twon.
And this is Tech Taste Daily. You know, back in the day, I was talking to one of our family friends. And she used to like to greet people. And she would say, yo ho.
Ah,
we was like, don't say
yo
that.
ho ho and a bottle of rum.
Don't say that. That's not. These days, you can't be calling people hoes. You say yo to them.
Unless you're the captain.
Yo ho ho.
Saving them.
That's probably why she said it like
I was
that.
talking about a different captain, saving them.
Oh, goodness.
Don't save them.
I'm feeling it. So, yo, one of my favorite movies of all time, real spit,
time.
is called Ex Machina. Have you ever seen this movie?
Oh yeah, I saw that shit.
What'd you think of it? Did you like it? Don't talk
You know,
shit
it
about
was one of those cerebral, retrospective
very
type movies
cerebral,
where
yes.
when I was watching it at first, I was like, "What's really going on?" Like,
Right.
I don't get it.
Mm.
And then I'm like, "Oh, okay, I see what's going on."
Yes.
But then it was over.
Aren't you familiar
So
with
that's one of those you got to watch it a couple times.
It is. You do. You know what? You're right. Because I liked it a lot better on the second and third viewing. You're right.
But I never watched it again.
See?
Like, fuck that movie.
You're familiar with the Turing test, right?
Yes, I am.
That's like the main premise of that movie.
Yeah, but tell us what it is.
Well, it's about a gentleman who is a programmer who is called to this like deserted island by this kind of an Elon Musk character, like a super genius. Not Elon Musk. Who's the like a Facebook dude? You know, Mark Zuckerberg. type dude.
Zuckerberg. All I could think of was Jeffrey Dahmer. That's I don't know. You said who's a Facebook dude, and the only name that popped into my head was Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know why, but I was just staring at the lights like, why can I only think of Jeffrey Dahmer?
I think him and Mark Zuckerberg might have more in common than we really want to admit is why.
Right.
But anyway, no. So he gets called to this island, and the dudes, or not island, whatever, way out in the nowhere, and he says, hey man, you have been selected to do the Turing test, and it's gonna be on this smoking hot robot.
Yep.
And you know what? I shouldn't say anything else. Just watch the movie. It goes from there. But that does directly relate to what we're talking about today.
Oh, yeah. And we're continuing on with the hole we started digging for ourselves with sex robots.
We did start digging a hole, didn't we?
So since we already dug the hole,
Yeah.
we figured we may as well go ahead and jump in it.
We told you we'd follow up.
Right?
Here we are.
Here's the follow-up, and there will be many more follow-ups. It looks like sex robots is going to be the regular occurrence. You know what? In fact,
What's that?
we should talk about sex robots on Hump Day.
Oh, Mike.
So from now on,
Mike,
it's going to be
Mike.
Sex Robot Hump Day.
You know what Hump Day is?
Every
I mean,
Wednesday.
You know what day it is.
So yeah, if you're watching this on the live stream, it's not Hump Day,
Hump Day.
but this will go live. It's been decided on Hump Day.
Every day. I mean, not every day.
Sex
You know what I mean?
robots.
Yes.
On Hump Day.
Okay.
Coming at you.
It's
All right,
official.
so here we go. Let us take a look at what's going on with the Japanese full functioning
Hell.
female robots.
Hello.
Lego.
Welcome to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. I'm a licensed journalist here in Las Vegas. I've worked for such glorious companies as CNN. I have not worked for Fox yet. And when I say worked for, I mean I've done
I
stories
just had to clarify.
submitted
That's
and was
funny.
published by CNN. 99% of the news is kind of like that. Most of the stories are done by people like me, and then the anchor or whomever gets to report it. Do me a
Right.
favor and please interact with this video. Interact means watch the whole video, click the thumbs up or thumbs down, leave a comment, share. Oh, and all of my subscribers, please click the notification bell. YouTube has come out flat out and said, subscribing doesn't do anything. The notification bell is the only thing that matters. So please, all of you,
We'll
click the
talk about that
notification
on
bell
another video.
under
Yeah,
the
that's
subscribe tab. Let's
That's
get right
deserving
into
of
it. Or
conversation.
the new saying is, let's go. Japan releases fully functioning female robots. In the United States and most Western countries, any manufacturer that is successful in building an autonomous being, better known as robot, is impressed upon by the government or government agency through grant money to come under the control of the federal government.
That was impressive.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
So you remember we were talking about Osimo the other day?
Yeah.
And I mentioned that Osimo was a decade and a half ago.
At least.
That was in Japan, though.
Right.
So all this stuff that's happening in Japan and Korea
Yeah.
and other places, we don't hear about that on CNBC. You don't hear about that on CNN.
No, you know what? We
You
don't.
hear about any of that stuff.
So why they fronting?
And they are decades ahead of us in commercial robotics.
Facts.
Now, I can't speak to the classified shit because I know how we do over here. I know how the government
does. In the U.S., the hammer doesn't cost $500. The toilet seat doesn't cost $500. That's black budget shit.
Yep.
And when we saw that shock and awe,
when we saw the shock and awe in Desert Storm,
Right.
that was some shit that they built back in the 60s.
No question.
Right? When you used to see that UFO alien shit, they're like, you remember that shit, dog? They're
yeah.
talking about there's diamond shaped or there's triangle aircraft. They're not making a sound and they're black and they're flying over Nevada and here and there and Arizona.
Well, that's ridiculous. Forget you ever heard about that or saw that. That
Right?
doesn't make any
So
sense.
that was the F-117 stealth bomber.
That's all it was.
They were like, oh, there's aliens. And I was like, oh man, there's aliens and shit.
Yeah.
I remember reading about that
Yep.
and thinking, no, there's well, I don't know. Maybe I thought it was aliens. Maybe I thought it was aircraft, but
15 years later,
it's aircraft.
it was aircraft.
And the B-2 stealth bomber, they designed that shit back in the 60s.
They didn't tell us nothing.
So my point simply being that Osimo was an advanced walking robot that had a little bit of AI. I don't think he was smart. I think he was more a walking mobility robot. So, showing off the legs and the arms and shit.
So if
but
they
then
were telling
boom, he
us,
disappeared.
If they were telling us all that about him back then, Twon, tell them what
That's
they
what I'm
wanted.
saying. If they were telling us that they got this thing that can walk around and do all this stuff back then, and then you add the Sophia AI and all this other AI shit that we got going on that they're telling us about right now,
What does that mean?
they didn't tell us about the B-2 stealth bomber that they designed in the 60s until like the mid 90s?
That's right.
So 30 years later. So if we saw some Osimo shit, 10, 15 years ago, call that 30 years later, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that Osimo shit, that means that was some 60s technology,
Oh, some old
70s
school
technology
stuff to them.
too.
Who knows what they got now,
Right?
son? You know
So
what I
these
mean?
movies you're seeing now, Beyond the Wire and stuff like that on Netflix.
Right.
Dope ass movie, by the way. You should check that out.
Yeah.
With my man that played the Falcon.
The Falcon.
In the Avengers movies.
Yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming out too.
What's homeboy's name?
I can never
I
remember.
can't think of his name either. But that dude was in Beyond the Wire. Fire.
Why is it I can never remember the black dudes from Marvel?
Oh. But that movie was fire.
That War Machine dude? Don Cheadle.
Okay. No.
But that's not the right one.
No, that's not
Black
Don
dude.
Cheadle. That's that other nigga.
All right, moving on. Back to the female robots.
All right. So anyway, yeah, like I was saying, what we're about to look at here is what Japan has going on. At least what we're seeing that Japan has going on now in this video, which who knows? I think this video is relatively recent. I think it was October of 2020.
Okay.
But with Osimo and all these other things that we mentioned, what we know about it now,
That means it's old.
that means it's old,
Because they're telling us about it.
right? If you go to the grocery store or the bookstore, if they still have those where you live, and you get yourself a Popular Science magazine or Science Digest or whatever you. Well, whatever periodical you read and consume in whatever form you consume it in. Hopefully it's digital, hug a tree and shit, But wherever you consume your information, if you're seeing information that's showing you something about digital electronics that have some national security or military aspects to it,
especially if it's
if you're
futuristic.
seeing it,
Yeah.
that's some old shit.
It's old.
Because if they were really using that, it would be classified. You wouldn't be able to look at it.
Much less hear
I
about it.
remember I used to work at at Lockheed Martin. We were on a FAA services contract.
Right.
We got the Lockheed Martin internal magazine thing, and it would talk about some of the stuff that they were working on. Like back then that they're working on was the X-37.
Nice.
It was supposed to be the flying wing spaceship with aerospike engines that was single stage to orbit launch and whatnot, and then it just disappeared.
Really?
Like, granted, there was a contract bidding, and Lockheed didn't get the contract, or maybe they did, and that aircraft wasn't chosen. But then it was like they just stopped talking about it. It just the conversation just disappeared.
Right.
And one has to wonder, did they scrap the technology? Because they spent all that money designing this thing and flying prototypes and stuff. And did they just decide, fuck it, we're not doing that anymore?
It could go either
or did
way.
it go black?
Yep.
Why has it got to be black when nobody knows about it?
Yeah.
Why can't that be the
default?
The Asian thing? Like, did it go Asian? Nobody knows about it.
Right.
Anyway, I digress. So my point is, what we're showing you in these videos here is what's not classified yet. And in Japan, as you'll see as we watch this video here, in Japan, they spend a lot more money on consumer robotics, where the way that most robotics companies work in the U.S. is they're trying to get that government cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can get the government money, the government grants and whatnot, there's like $1 million grant floating around out there for anybody that can build a robot or automated thing that does something that the military can apply to the battlefield.
Definitely.
If you can do that, then they'll give you $1 million to keep going. In order to get that $1 million, you have to give them all your data and say, here's what we're doing. So now the government has all your information.
Right.
And they take your shit and they go do some stuff and they don't tell you about it or anybody else. And next thing you know, you got Japanese sex robots running around killing mofos in Israel or something.
So speaking of, let's hear about them.
All right, here we go.
Of course, that means that the interest of the federal government is to provide military support by any means necessary. With $1 million
Say it,
grant
Malcolm.
up for grabs, you can see how U.S. manufacturers are almost 100% beholden to the federal government. Even if
It's
they
just
aren't
like you're
already
saying.
under the federal government, that grant money makes them strive to get the prize of the grant money, and so they come under the
What do you
federal
need?
government anyway. Even though they don't win the grant money,
You want to do
they will
backflips
keep trying
and
and
shit?
keep trying
Okay.
and keep trying to
Right.
get the grant money, which means they solicit the federal government as how to improve their robots to such a degree to win the $1 million grant. What does this mean? Soft robotics, exoskeletons, robotics come to the forefront of research for federal government interests.
Pretty impressive.
And stuff like social robots take a
That's
almost
impressive.
non-existent
Yeah.
backseat, far
So,
down the ladder. So
like-
in the U.S., social robots are
Like
sideshows.
what we were saying.
They appear on talk shows for your entertainment.
If you don't stop, or if you don't make it a point to build stuff for the military, you don't get that grant money.
Right.
So all these robotics companies that might have been trying to do something for the greater good or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, well, we need some funding to continue,
Yep.
and we can't sell these things. Nobody's buying these things, so we're gonna have to go ahead and get this government cheese,
Yeah, robots are expensive.
right? But this guy has an interesting
Available
twist.
to many buyers as possible. This means you end up with America being decades behind places like China and Japan, which pour millions into it. That's millions into research, millions into development, millions into parts and labor, versus manufacturers here in the United States selling their completed robot, social robot, for a cool $2,000. Let me ask you folks, what do you think the prototype for the robot was if the end product was $2,000. All of you car buffs, I want you to chime in right now. How much is a prototype vehicle each and every year cost to sell something that costs $60,000 or $40,000 or worse, $20,000? Can you imagine something that costs a retail $2,000? What do you expect to get? You can buy power tools that cost more than $2,000.
Sure.
China announced publicly that it wants to be the world leader in robotics, to the point that it wants to be the go-to place for robots. Its neighbor Japan made no such announcement, but they are decades ahead of China and decades ahead, of course, of the U.S. Japan
They're
has
real serious
such
about it.
things as mech suits for sale for $1 million that you can get right now. They have transformers,
$1 million, you get a
cars
mech
that
suit.
transform into robots that you can
Japan.
drive and sit in for the entire process of them transforming from a car to a robot. So no, Japan doesn't have to release
got
public statements
Transformers
about
in
its
Japan.
commitments to robotics. Now,
You buy
you
a
will not find
transforming
this
Bentley
in
or some
AP,
shit.
which is the
Yeah.
Associated
It turns
Press.
into a
You
mech
won't find
robot
this
and you
report
can
in
run up
Reuters,
on your
but
boss and
I
step
have
on him.
secret information
Yeah.
and
And
secret
roll
sources,
off in your shit.
and has rolled out brand new social robots, state-of-the-art robots that is fully functioning wife robot. It costs $345,000 to start, so the
That's
price
an
is a
expensive
sticking
wife.
point for most men. That being said, it
I
serves
mean,
as
is it?
self-funding.
Well, yeah.
How much
In
is
the
a real
grand
wife?
grand scheme of things. Wait, let's talk about that for a second.
I mean, if
That's a one-time fee.
yeah,
You're done after that.
yep.
There's no feeding. There's no drinking.
And your robot's not going to divorce you.
There's no half.
I'm saying,
There's got to be some shopping because you don't want her wearing the same outfit all the
no.
time. But she don't eat. She don't drink.
I'm
She
saying,
don't complain.
that's not part of the price.
Dude, no, there's these. Wait till you hear the rest of this shit. These the robots they have in Japan, depending on how many extras you order, they're conversational.
Oh, they are monetizing that part,
Right? Yes. Yeah. You got to pay extra for that.
Right.
Oh, you wanted to say nice things?
Oh, that's hilarious.
You wanted to rub your back and stuff? That costs extra.
Hey, this is
But I'm
right
saying,
around the way, man.
It's all available right now.
in the next decade. Who
No,
knows where
right
they're
now.
gonna be?
Right now, it's available.
Well, my point is they don't look like this right now.
They do.
10 years though.
No, right now.
I'll believe
Like
it.
that.
I'll believe it when I see it. Wow. She looks kind of robotic.
Wait, did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said?
They did.
And they can bear children
Oh no, I didn't hear that.
in an
part.
artificial womb.
What? No, I didn't hear that part.
They are decades ahead of the U.S. They're building robotic females that have an artificial womb where you can take your DNA and put your DNA into their artificial womb with some, biology abracadabra and put that shit in without any help from a female. And your wifely robot can have your replica baby, basically.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that stuff is nuts. So peep game, pay attention.
That does not mean clone. It means replicate, reproduce yourself with
So one more again.
artificial womb. Without the input, clean, say nice things, perform wifely duties, and can bear children in an artificial womb. Without the input whatsoever of any human female DNA at all. None. You can now replicate yourself. That does not mean clone. It means replicate, reproduce yourself with just the DNA that's on your body. Of course, you need a laboratory to do all of the lovely stuff to do that, but you can do it all by yourself. Why? Because men's DNA contains all of the products necessary to create both men and women. Women's DNA does not. By necessity, women's DNA needs male input if they were going to do that. But now you can do it. Just a man walks into the lab, brings his robot.
I love
says,
how
"Hello,
he's just
pal,"
flashing
boom,
hot chicks.
She's carrying.
But that's a
baby
trip,
inside
right?
her as
Yeah,
when you walk in.
yeah.
While it can perform all wifely duties, there are much cheaper full-size dolls that can be used in the bedroom. In Asia, Japan, and China, men now take their dolls with
He
them.
said, so he's talking about the 300 and whatever thousand like robot that can walk around and cook and clean and do shit. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying, dog.
No, it's just late, dude. I'm tired, man.
Okay, well we gotta wrap this up then, and that's it. So you over here falling asleep.
Yes, I'm fading, man.
All right. Well, that's it. That's all.
Base in the space means peace. See you later.
Tech Taste Daily.
Like and subscribe.
Links in the description.